Welcome to what I think will be a series, heavily inspired by Tateset's junction-breakdown videos. Here we'll untangle some of Switzerland's most complex tram and transit junctions. And today we're kicking things off with a very heavy hitter in Basel, at one of the busiest and most sprawling transport nodes in the city and perhaps the country. Here we go at Aeschenplatz. Thousands of people pass through this square every day. But how many actually know how it works? Let's dive in. Aeschenplatz sits at the eastern edge of downtown Basel. It's a meeting point for tram lines heading to the main station, to Birsfelden and Pratteln, into the city center, and along St. Jakobstrasse on the old alignment towards Asch and Dornach. It's a crossroads, a hub, and quite frankly, a headache. Around 45,000 public transport passengers use this hub every day, making it one of Basel's busiest transit nodes outside the main station and the downtown hubs at Barfüßerplatz and Schifflände. 7 different tram lines pass through Aeschenplatz on a daily basis. Line 3 from Beersfelden through the city center to Saint-Louis in France. Line 8 from Bachletten via the SBB main station and the city center to Weil am Rhein in Germany. Switzerland's longest tram line, Line 10, running from Dornach through the SBB main station, downtown and Leyman in France, all the way to the tiny village in Rodersdorf. Line 11 from Asch to the border at Saint-Louis, sharing the tracks over the plaza with lines 8 and 11. Line 14 from Pratteln through downtown and meeting line 3 on its way in and out of the city. The final regular line, line 15, connecting the villas on the Bruderholz Plateau with downtown. And finally, the peak time only line 12, formerly known as E11, which only serves Aeschenplatz on its outbound journey from Theater toward Rheinach, following the same alignment as lines 11 and 10. At peak times, Aeschenplatz is therefore served by 7 tram lines, each running every 7.5 minutes per direction. Put all of that together and you end up with nearly 100 trams passing through this square in a single hour. With a tram passing on average every 68.5 seconds during peak, that makes the tracks heading away from Basel city center, at least as far as I can tell, some of the busiest tram tracks anywhere in the world, only beaten by a 30-meter section even further downtown, where 8 instead of 7 lines share a track. Aeschenplatz isn't really one station. It's an ecosystem of stops spread across the entire square. Even cars circulate around it on a kind of roundabout structure, which also cuts straight across the middle and is serving bus lines 80, 81, and 37. So let's break down the platforms one group at a time. Platforms A and B lie along the southern approach to the square. Here, lines 8, 10, and 11 stop as they move between Basel SBB and the downtown. Outbound platform B also sees line 12, making this one of the square's busiest passenger exchange points. Platforms D and E are some of the oddest platforms on the entirety of Basel's tram network and Switzerland as a whole. Because non-revenue tracks connect both the approaches from the south and north, line 15, which uses slightly shorter 5-section trams just to even fit on the square, stops directly over the track diamonds. This creates noticeable height differences between the platform and tram floor, not compliant with Swiss accessibility standards. The only comparable situation I can think of while writing this script is Zürich Central, which will absolutely show up later in the series. Platform F serves the inbound trams of lines 3 and 14. It sits on a rather tight curve, which leads to some awkward step gaps. At the time it was built, this was the only geometry that provided enough space for passengers without pushing the stop into the car lanes. On their outbound legs, lines 3 and 14 each get their own platform on the northern edge of the square. Platforms G and H. From here they could theoretically loop south towards Asch or Dornach, but instead their tracks merge again and the lines head north further out of Basel into the countryside. Platforms J, K, and L are no longer part of normal operations. From the 1930s to the early 1990s, these tracks acted as turnback loops for Line 11 and the BEB, the predecessor to part of today's Line 10. Since 1994, both lines have run straight through the city, making the loop redundant. It is still available during disruptions or construction, but since it only allows trams to head southeast, it's of limited use in today's network. Platforms C, M, N, and O belong to the buses operating on the square's outer ring. C is used by lines 80 and 81. N is the terminus for line 37. And finally, both O and M are no longer in regular service. And this spread out arrangement is exactly why Aeschenplatz feels so chaotic. It's technically one interchange, but in practice it's a stitched-together web of stops, crossings, curves, and branches. It's not unusual to see passengers jogging across the plaza, trying to make a connection. It's important, it's busy, and it works. But barely. That's why the city is now planning a major redesign of the whole area, including a reorganized road layout and simplified public transport platforms. The plan would also allow trams to loop around the block, enabling turnbacks from every direction and finally meeting accessibility standards. The design isn't really suited if ever you wanted to connect lines not via the city center. But come on, this is Basel. When would that ever be the case? Thank you for tuning in. This channel now has enough subscribers to fill a regular coach bus. And while I mostly do this for myself, I would be lying if I said it doesn't feel cool to have at least a couple of people interested in the subject. So thank you.